Huge whoops and rounds of applause, please. Let's start with our very first talk. It's Mark McWhirter. Mark, over to you.
There you go. Thank you very much. I hope everyone had a great lunch, because I'm going to talk about food and make you hungry all over again. So yeah, hi everybody. You'd be really glad to know I'm not here to talk about the Jason that's involved in running a food business online. So this is actually straight away from the Domino's website, and this is the Jason that's passed into the app. Away with that, and on to the good stuff. And this is all about side hustles and the joy of running a side hustle. So first up, I'm a lead platform engineer. So if you don't know what that is, I basically do all the DevOpsy stuff, but I recently found out DevOps is not a real job title. So I changed to platform engineering, and I head up the team at Glean doing that. But on the side, I'm a pizzaiolo, which basically means I make pizza. I am not Italian by any stretch of the imagination. If you're struggling with the accent, I'm from Belfast. Been in Leeds for about 12 years, but absolutely not lost that accent. So a bit about the story and how this all kind of came about. So back in lockdown, we all had that weird moment where we needed new hobbies and new interests to sort of keep us occupied. Most people resorted to drinking in their back garden whilst on furlough. I bought a pizza oven and I really caught a bug. And the reason why I think this kind of caught on so quickly was I've worked with pizza for a very long time, and I've obsessed over it for a very long time. So my first ever job was working for Domino's, and I really quickly learned how bad that pizza was. And whenever I got this oven and started, getting fascinated about the techniques of the dough and the toppings, I quickly learned that Neapolitan is the way to do this. And people got really, really bored at work about me constantly talking about this bloody pizza oven and, the pizza I was making. And I was actually making so much of it that I had to actually offload some of it onto other people. So one of the things I thought would do was I'll start a bit of a page and talk a bit about my story. So this is the first post I ever done on Instagram. It is absolutely horrendous looking back on it, and I really should delete it. But at this point, I didn't quite know what I was wanting to do. Was I just going to share the story of what pizza I was making, what was doing in the back garden, or was I actually trying to sell some of the products that I was, baking in that oven? And there's a lot of people out there doing this. If you go on Instagram and just type in, the Uni brand or any of the sort of home pizza ovens, you really quickly find that people have made a lot of money off of, just making some pizza and posting some pictures. And I thought that's kind of what I was doing. So as I kept making pizzas and experimenting, I really quickly realized that I do need to get rid of some of this stuff. So I was giving it to delivery drivers when they were bringing me boxes. And then eventually I thought I need to actually give this to people who will give me feedback. So if you can see the really blurry GIF on the right, that's my home CCTV. And you can see me carrying 15 boxes of pizza to the pub next door. And I was giving it away for absolutely nothing because I just wanted some feedback from people. And it worked. I got amazing feedback. People were asking me, where can I buy this? And I kind of thought, maybe this is an opportunity. And the pub in question said to me, we've nothing planned for Mother's Day. Do you fancy popping up? And I did. I was massively over-prepared and under-prepared. I had absolutely no idea how much people would buy. I think I spent about £300 on toppings and dough and all that sort of stuff. Actually sold about 200. So I made a loss, but I absolutely caught a bug that day. And from there, it kind of changed. It was no longer just a hobby. And this was literally overnight. I started getting new followers on Instagram, and people were booking me for bar mitzvahs and weddings and birthdays, farmers markets, everything. And it became really serious, and people did actually get behind it. People were wanting to know where I was and what I was doing, and it really, really was exciting at that time. But then I quickly realized that this was a hobby. This was meant to be a side thing, and I did have a job in tech, and I still do. So how do I balance the two things together? So one of the things that people always say to me, you must be absolutely exhausted, because it is a 7-day-a-week sort of affair. You are working your full 5 days a week full-time job, and then sometimes in the evenings during the week, you will do a pizza pop-up, and you will do things on weekends and evenings, and it actually feels like you're working about 10 days a week. It is really, really tiring, but it's a whole different ballgame. It's not the same kind of tiring you get from doing a day job 10 days a week. It's a totally different ballgame altogether. And people didn't really get it as well. There was a lot of haters. I had a lot of people say to me, do you just have like an addiction to Amazon that you're just spending so much money that you need this extra income? And it took a while to sort of explain to people that this was more than just money. There was that sort of characteristic from my personality that was being ticked by doing the pizza on the side. And I had to start sort of sharing that story to get that buy-in. So some of the things that I think make sense, and I'm hoping that people get a bit of inspiration from this to go and start doing a side hustle as well. There's a lot of personality things that you can take from your main job and pass into a side hustle. So one of the first examples is to do any kind of business, you need to have an online presence, be that Instagram or a website or whatever. And we all know, as I'm sure some of us here probably worked in web design and absolutely, rinsed some people to make a simple website for them. It's expensive. And the best bit is I can do that. So I saved myself a clean fortune by setting up a website myself. And I had all that sort of branding and stuff like that. I could just do that. And it was so much easier, and I didn't need to rely on other people for that. And the good thing is I know PHP for all my sins. And one of the things that always happens is, food and tech has been a thing for a long time. Deliveroo's an absolute success. But back in the day, even, the simple sort of, the Domino's of the world, they were taking orders online. And to do that is so expensive. You have no idea how much they charge just to allow you to take some orders on a website. I'm talking thousands of pounds plus percentages. And I literally wrote it on a train to London one day in a couple of hours. So I feel like I'm beating the system here. In terms of how actually the work in tech kind of supports that, tech is pretty flexible, to be honest. So most businesses out there will allow you to work remotely, work flexibly, and 9 to 5 is pretty uncommon. So that means if on a Tuesday I need to pop out and see my cheese guy Mario and pick up 10 kilos of cheese, I can, and it's not a problem. And the same if I need to finish a little bit earlier, I can typically make that work. So it really works to your advantage. And the second bit is then knowing people in the game is really helpful. So I've had a few occasions where there's been some weird legal hurdles to get over. Your office manager wants you to cook for everyone in the office, but then legal are like, well, we're paying you twice, so you can't really do that. So once you get over that, it's all good from there. But it is really good knowing people in the game. I know a lot of food vendors, I know a lot of people that work in bars, because you're popping up there, you get to know these people, you build relationships with them. And what's really, really helpful is then whenever you need that relationship for something in your day job, you can use it. So if you need somewhere for a social, I probably know some good places. I think one of the things that I always sort of explain and why I think it's kind of worked for me and it works for a lot of people, you'll hear a lot of people talking about how they work in tech and how they also love cooking on the side. And there's some personality traits there that really, really fit into that. And I think it's the obsession. Whenever you work in software engineering especially, you obsess over the littlest of details. Like you absolutely love, getting a language perfected, really making that website look perfect, or whatever sort of project you've got. You want to do it to the best of your ability, and it becomes almost like an art. And I think it's exactly the same with food. Whenever it's not always happening, but whenever a pizza comes out of that oven, I go, oh my God, that looks bloody perfect. It is, the satisfaction's amazing. And it's nice having that crossover between the two. And it really gives you that weird endorphins because you've just made that connection between the two careers. And the second bit is, working in day jobs can be really, really frustrating. A lot of the times there's red tape, there's processes, there's things that just don't go straightforward. As we've heard numerous times today in talks, nothing's ever straightforward in tech. And the thing is, whenever you have your own business and your own creative outlet, you get it done, and that satisfaction of actually going and delivering, maybe even getting paid for it, is really, really nice. And I have to mention, I work in tech, I sit in my arse 99% of my day, and working at a market and working at a wedding on a weekend where you're on your feet from 8 a.m. till midnight, you are exhausted. But it's that really nice exhaustion, which is really hard to explain. You get home and you lie in bed and you're like, oh, yes. And it means I don't have to go to the gym, and I get this gym bod from doing all the pizza. So why not full-time? It's pretty straightforward. Once that line's crossed, once it no longer becomes the side project and the side hustle, the joy is lost. You almost rely on this to pay your mortgage and your bills, and it's never that consistent. It's food especially is a very temperamental game where people can be very fussy. If it's slightly cloudy and foggy outside, people won't buy a pizza, which is really surprising. So having to rely on that as your main source of income is too stressful, whereas having this to sort of supplement your income is so nice. And of course, it is just a nice creative outlet, as I've mentioned already. And some of the bits that you don't quite get from working in a job in tech, I spend a lot of my time pretty isolated in software engineering. I don't see an awful lot of people. Yeah, I've got a couple of meetings, but it's a very sort of siloed sort of role, and it's really, really nice, going to someone's wedding or going to sell pizza in a bar and seeing customers and seeing regular people's faces who come back and buy from you again and again. I think that's the biggest sort of compliment you can ever get. So it's not all about the money. It's that human interaction and that sort of tick, especially if you're a bit of an extrovert. I'm going to talk about relationships that you get from this, and you will get some really, really interesting ones. So I think around you, you need to make sure if you're doing a side hustle, you have the right support. So this is my other half, Gary. He is to HMRC employee number 1, and he has been excellent to have around whenever I am committing myself far too much. He'll be the first person to say, when are we going to go on holiday, though? So it's really nice having that sounding board, especially if it's a bit of a gig that you're not quite sure of. I got an opportunity once to make pizza for some wrestlers and people who were on gladiators, and I wasn't quite sure. I was like, surely they're going to be more caring about their physique and not want to eat loads of carbs, and I was really wrong. And he told me that, so have the right people around you. And enjoy the weird moments. You meet these people that you see at a farmer's market once a month, and you know absolutely nothing about them, other than the fact that they make really good chili jam. I don't even know their name, but in my phone, it's the chili jam guy. And I thought I would share one moment that happened actually on Saturday. So this is Coco, the parrot. And I've never, ever seen a parrot come back for seconds. But he was working the room, and he made me some excellent Instagram content. So I'm very appreciative of Coco. So bits that I've not done yet. I absolutely love Prometheus, and I love metrics. But I've not yet wired up any of my pizza ovens to Prometheus. So I have no idea how long it takes to cook, but coming soon, hopefully. And that dough mixer is still calling my name at 6 a.m. some mornings to go downstairs and make dough, so I've not yet managed to get that automated. So I guess what's coming up next for me, growing the business. So once these things sort of grow, themselves, it's now going, well, what's next and where are you going to go? So I think it's getting towards time where I would like to keep my career in tech going. I'm at a pretty good place. I'm pretty senior in the team, and I want that to progress. But I also want the business to keep going. So it's finding that balance of who can come in and who can you trust to sort of run the business alongside you and be able to step away a bit more. I'm going to teach you some lessons. So this is the first lesson I made. I used to drive an Audi TT, which was absolutely tiny, and I ran a pizza business out the back of that for a year and a half. And I used to do 4 trips every time I did a pizza pop-up to get everything there, and I looked ridiculous. It looked cool, but ridiculous. But absolutely, I think first lesson, baby steps. You can go out there and buy yourself a big vehicle if you want to, but then you're almost overcommitting yourself to make a certain amount of money to pay that off. So take it step by step, use what you've got, and eventually you'll consider what's next steps. And that was buying a van, which I've done. And this is actually, enjoy the time off as a result of the things that you do. So we took all the pizza stuff out the back of the van and put a mattress in and went around Belgium. And it was one of the best holidays we've ever done because it was like, we've worked for this. This van is paid for by selling pizza to some people. And it's really weirdly satisfying. And then I think the final lesson I'm going to give you is once that side hustle is no longer fun, or if it's too much stress or pressure, just don't do it. I have really quickly learned that sometimes you want to be somewhere just to be seen or to be, have that presence. And you don't get any fun from it. You don't get anything out the back of it. So as soon as the fun stops, you just sort of leave it. Be picky. This is not the be-all and end-all. This is something you're meant to enjoy. So once you no longer enjoy it, step away. And that's how you can connect with me. Thank you so much.